All right, everybody, welcome back again to the channel. I'm Gordon Best, and we're working on the Jag. Last video, you seen me pull out the subframe. What I've been up to since, obviously, you see all the cardboard laying around. I just made up like a kind of a quick template for myself so we can see kind of roughly what we want for a frame. This is more or less what we're after, is something like that. So what the plan is, as of right now, it's always subject to a little tweaking. What's going to happen, we need to cut this new frame rail. This has to go, this rad support. So we're going to put a new rad support in, and we're going to put a new frame rail in. Because of the way the car is shaped, this frame rail is going to be shaped a little bit like this, same as that one. Once we do that, we'll probably have to cut part of this one back out, depending on my clearance for my wheels to turn, and we'll have to move the shock towers and so on and so on. All right, so let's get right into it. Let's get that new rad support on, and we'll cut the old one off. All right, everybody, this is what we're up to. This is I'm calling it a rad support. It's going down at the bottom. It will probably be what I build my radiator off of. So we'll call it the rad support for now. Ultimately, the original rad support has to come out because it's going to be in the way of the subframe. So we're going to put a new one in before we cut that. First thing we got to do is we got to cope these two little half moon shapes. They got to come out, and that's just so it can slide up in the bumper brackets. Okay, ultimately, this is where this is going. I'm going to tuck it right up in here. The idea of cutting those out was so it fit right onto those. We're not going to weld to these. We're just going to weld to the rail part of it. So these factory mounts, I want to try to keep them. The original bumper stuck out a long ways, but I'm thinking we're going to build the car more or less out to the bumper now. So I think it's going to work out really good. We can use these. I'm just going to give these a quick clean, and then we'll weld this on. Okay, here's where we're at. Here's my rad support, for lack of better terms. I cut this out, like I said, to fit here. And it's bent, the right shape to kind of fit here. So we're going to hold that up. And you can see that's locked in there, really well, just on its own. We'll go ahead and put some tacks on it. Okay, I'll show you a little closer up what it looks like. Right here you can see that's the original rad support, so that's where her radiator sat originally. You'll notice that this one is higher. I don't know how well you can see that, but it is a little bit higher. The reason for that is we are going to tuck the suspension up a little tighter in the car. We're going to move these frame rails up a little bit. That way it's, a little bit lower. We get a little lower stance. So here's what we got on the go. We're going to weld those. And like I said, it fits really well. It fits up around those bumper brackets really well. And our frame, our new frame, is going to tie into this and head back and tie into our original frame. And then we're going to plate it in, and we're going to have to restructure the car a little bit here, so it's going to get a little wonky for a little while, but that's just part of it. Okay, so the theory is now I'm going to weld this in strong enough that the car is not going to fall apart. And then we're going to cut these off. And at some point, we're probably going to end up cutting these bumper mounts off back to here, drilling a new hole in. That way the bumper is tucked up nice and tight, but for now we'll leave them long. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and weld that, and we'll cut this piece out. I need to figure out how wide we are at the bushings, and we are what? We're 31 1/8. Okay, so I'll write that down so I don't forget. We are 31 1/8. That's from the inside to inside of the bushing. We need our reference template. So this cardboard here, I mean, this is going to be the actual frame rail, but where it's made of the cardboard, it is just kind of a reference. That's about what we're looking at for a new frame. So again, the subframe is going to be about 2 inches up into the car. So I'm thinking that'll lower the car, obviously, about 2 inches. And the whole thought process behind that, if we can get the car down in the front, we'll try and get it down in the back. It's got excessive ground clearance. And I think this is a good way to lower it. We don't sacrifice any suspension. So what I need to figure out is where to cut the old rad support off. As you can see, my new bushing is going to be right about here. So I guess we're going to have to this whole thing's going to have to go, which I thought it did, but I wanted to have one last check. My bushings are going to be somewhere about here. So we need to know how wide we are. And it might be hard to measure, but I guess it's not too bad. We are 33 5/8. So 33 5/8. So that's 2.5 inches of the difference. So that's 1.25 inches each side. So we need to come out 1.25 inches each side. And it looks like our bushing sticks out 1/2 inch off the frame rail for clearance. So that means our frame rail needs to come out 3/4 inch. So if I did my math right, we need to come out 3/4 off of each side, like that, and that needs to be mowed off. So there's not going to be much left of the old rad support, but I figured I'd leave whatever we could just for added strength. All right, well, so obviously that's cut out of there, and you can see the rust problem. So the good news is for us here is where I decided to cut them off, they're still in good shape. This whole cross member, I don't know how well you can see that on the camera, but it's actually in really good shape, with the exception of the very outside ends. So we're going to buzz those outside ends off, and we don't need them anymore. Now that we have this, I'm going to clean these up now, And we're going to start to cut out a frame rail and put it in place and have a look and see what we got. Okay, so here's the first frame rail laid out. I went ahead and drilled this hole. This hole here to this spot right here has to be kept relatively close. This is where the stabilizer bar or sway bar, whatever you want to call it, it bolts on here. And that's where the bushing goes for the subframe. This one right here. So we went ahead and drilled that. I double and triple checked to make sure this was the right size. This frame arch, where the other subframe mount goes, I just copied it off of this. So, you know, it should be pretty close. Like I said, we may have to shim this up a little bit, or, you know, we'll tweak that. When we set it back in, we'll just make sure that it's at the right angle. So I'll go ahead and cut that out and we'll try it in. Okay, so the first frame rail, I cut it out and I cleaned it up. And then what I did was I clamped it down, I traced out around it, and I drilled that hole in the second one. And the idea is, after I cut that other one out, at the very least, at least these two pieces will be the same, or, you know, as close as humanly possible. So we're going to go ahead and try this one in now, and we'll have a look, see how it fits. And we'll go from there. Okay, so we're tight against the piece we cut off. We're tight against the frame back here. And it looks pretty good up here. Looks like it fits pretty good. So I'm reasonably happy with that. I think we probably could get away with going ahead and tacking that in place. And we'll do our final measurements off of it. But yeah, I think that's pretty reasonable. Tacks on it. Ones that are easily accessible to cut back off. Because one thing I have to do, I have to make sure, you know, I'm able to get my pieces in here that I need to reinforce everything in the front. And once I tie, you know, this main piece here, the frame rail, the new rad support, which is heavy duty, once this is all fab back in, we'll run the frame back into the car. So I think for now at least, I think we're pretty much done as far as we can go for frame rails until I cut the other one out and put the other one in. Then we'll verify all the measurements, and then we'll go ahead and start seeing what we got to do here. Saying that, we may have to cut a piece out where the subframe comes in, because the control arms, they taper with the frame, so bringing it ahead, they may not have the room. So that's one of the things we'll have to check. But for now, thanks again for watching. Hope you come back and we'll continue at it.